January 20th, 2019. Sunday morning, rainy day, and about to leave in a couple minutes for a friend's autobiographical therapeutic performance. Um, and it just makes me think about how valuable it has been during last year, 2018, to be in the physical presence of small group of people who are at that point in their lives when they're ready to create something from the buried truths in their lives. And to be in the room and in process with those people really changed me in another way. I've changed many times in my life, and I'm starting to embrace the fact that that's an element of a healthy life for me, which is embracing this continuous change. And so, what I think about in that is how different that is, how different that atmosphere of acceptance is compared to all the other situations I've set up in my life that are about seeking something, approval, um, hoping to please or hoping not to be rejected, and kind of skirting around that and living at some level, at some distance from the truth that's several layers below the surface. And we all do that at some level, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also seeing that it's essential to have a space in our lives where we don't have to do that. So we can experience ourselves, not just in our imaginations, in our truthfulness, but actually experience ourselves with our voice, our body, our presence, our contact with other humans in the truth of our wholeness. So it doesn't mean just all the rage and all the stuff that needs to be brought up, but also in that laughter and support and warmth and joy that naturally arises when we're connecting from truth. And I think that's what is so lost in kind of these flat screen media depictions, is what it's like to be in the presence of someone as they're um, revealing this stuff to themselves. And that's a real art form. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity to have been in those spaces. Because it's even different from the writing workshops where it really isn't about taking care of people's emotions directly. It's sort of indirectly, and the rest of the stuff, like really taking care of what's happening in you, is left up to your outside resources. So it's all important. And I ran into someone at the grocery store yesterday that I haven't seen in a long time. And she thanked me for what I was posting. And I wasn't really sure what she was referring to because I post a lot of different things. And I really don't imagine people being grateful for me posting about trauma and abuse and recovery. But I posted anyway. But she was referring to that stuff and disclosed a little bit about her own, journey in the last 2 years of coming into truth about that, about her experience with her own traumas. And it reminded me that we do have this need to drink from the well, the secret source, cold and clear, as David White says in his Well of Grief, that we want to come to the well and drink together. And we can't do that if we keep it all inside. If we do everything privately, we miss that opportunity to connect in unexpected ways with people that we might not feel connected to them in our superficial masks of social compliance. But all of a sudden, when we go to a deeper layer, we have something else that offers us a way in, a way of understanding the things that we might have observed in social behavior. So I continue to be a proponent of it. And to that point, I watched the documentary, Who is Arthur Chu, last night. And to talk about a story that we don't want to see. I mean, it's really everything that the American mainstream media culture has conditioned us to loathe, which is someone who's socially awkward, angry, easily provoked into argument, opinionated. It's like all these asshole characteristics that all of the social conditioning is designed to polish out of us and has been valued for so long. But now there's, with the internet, there's people that just can't do it or won't for whatever reason. So many different factors that make people less or more compliant with social conditioning. Neurological, social, familial, cultural, all these things. And I would just call this movie like unflinchingly looking at this person and portraying what's there. And it's not easy to watch because there's not a clear character arc. It's sort of just turning on the camera from the moment that he wins the Jeopardy championships to, what did he do with his life after that, and all those sort of stumblings. And then the backstory of his family, which for me, of course, was very interesting because he's touching on so many of these common themes that were present, that are treated also in Kim's Convenience in its own way. But that sort of alienation and denial of identity, but also the estrangement between father and son and the pressure on the eldest son. And then the backstory of where that came from because of his own father's kind of feelings toward his father and how he had a single father that raised 5 children, by himself in Taiwan. There were so many layers of it that were just like, I was very, very, very appreciative to see this movie, even though I sort of bristled and cringed at imagining other people seeing this and drawing all kinds of conclusions about Chinese people, Taiwanese people, our families, what the fuck's going on in relationships in families. And it definitely, because his father has an affair that he talks about, and they don't connect at all. But what's weird, I was thinking about it this morning, is when you watch his father, Arthur's father, talking to him in Chinese when they're sitting there in Taiwan, it could be my parents verbatim. Every single phrase and turn of intonation of the way it's said, it sounded exactly like things that I've heard from my parents. And it's like, so then I was like, why do they all sound the same? We kind of write it off as generational or cultural, but what was going on in that culture at that time, during that generation, that generated people that spoke like almost in memes? Is it the language? Is it really like that? Is it that kind of cookie cutter? Or does it reflect the fact that the society really didn't treat anyone as individuals? It was a society raising an army of soldiers for a nation state, to function as a militia. So you have to everyone has to sort of be in line and in step and speak a certain way, or you die. Simple as that. It's a pretty easy way to shape people. But so it's like they all look down. They sort of keep their eyes on their own place, even when they're eating food. It's like it was definitely something we don't understand because we didn't grow up, and our parents don't have insight into because they weren't allowed to come outside themselves and observe themselves in an oppressive environment. So we were thrust into this land of freedom, pop culture. Arthur talks about this, how his parents tried to shelter him from TV and sort of like what they viewed as the negative aspects of American culture. And so that that disconnected him from the world he was living in. And then he fed it back to himself. As soon as he had access to the internet, he started just consuming all the culture, if you can call it, if you consider American culture to be what's on mass media. He started to consume all of that for himself and educate himself in American culture. And then he has become sort of this talking head, blogger, opinionated writer person that's sort of trying to adopt his own version of that American identity of opinionator, speaker, social justice warrior, and through the intellect. And that was fascinating to me, and to watch his siblings' response to that. Like, they didn't understand why he was doing it. They didn't see any value in it. It's very difficult to watch because it's such an unresolved story. And I think it continues. But it's so real. I know that experience is so real for so many people. And they're probably not his fans because they might not even be on Twitter. I mean, his main window into the world is Twitter. I can't really stand Twitter. I don't understand it. Sorry, Twitter. But I can't think in a news feed scrolling kind of style, and I can't interact with people in 140 character spaces, obviously. Hence my 20-minute video blogs. But I appreciate the film, and I think we need more stories of like that are real, like that don't even qualify as stories necessarily. They're just like snapshots of what life is really like for some people in our world, and in our world, like in America in 2019. So thank you, filmmakers of Who is Arthur Chu. I appreciate it. And it's hard to talk about the movie because we expect people to come out of a movie and say, did you like it or did you not? It's like, I appreciate the film. Did I like the fact that there's somebody going through that and has like that's how he has had to find his way in life? It's very disconcerting, but so I can't say I liked it. And does it have this kind of neat arc that we expect from a movie? Not necessarily. Is it well filmed? Yes. It has a nice pace to it. I do like that. The overall, the way it was put together. It was a nice film, and so it's it's one of those things that are very hard to talk about socially in the traditional context. But I'm glad that movies like that are being made, and it inspires me to delve into the more unresolved aspects of my own life. So I think that's it for now. Thanks for listening.